In a Jewish Orthodox synagogue, in Hendon, the frail Rav Krushka collapses whilst giving a sermon as funeral rites commence in London. The rabbi's exiled daughter, Ronit Krushka, is living her life as a photographer in Manhattan during a photo shoot, she is told by the Brooklyn synagogue of her father's death. Wounded by the news and in a vulnerable state, she gets drunk in a local bar and sleeps with an undetermined man. Ronit flies home to London, where she feels out of place in the Orthodox Jewish unity she left behind. She is greeted at the home of David Kuhrman, a son figure to the Rav, who is taken aback by the unexpected return of his childhood friend. Her welcome inside the home is hostile from those in the community gathering in the Rav's honor. Her aunt Fruma Harda greets her more openly, though the air is frosty between Ronit and her uncle Moshe Hartog. Ronit is both upset and angry that she was not informed of her father's illness and that her father's obituary claims he was childless. Despite tensions surrounding Ronit's sudden departure in the past, David invites her to stay with him, and his wife Ronit is shocked to discover that he is married to their former best friend Estee, now a teacher at an Orthodox girls' school. It is uncomfortable between the two women. A complicated past is clearly hanging over them. The next day, Ronit visits her father's grave after further prayers at their home. David, Estee, and Ronit go to a dinner at the Hartog house with Rabbi Goldfarb and Rabbit Daddy and Goldfarb. Ronit tries to talk to her uncle about selling her father's house, but he tells her now is not the right time for such a topic. Conversation turns to Ronit's successful career as a photographer, and Robertson questions why she goes by Ronnie Curtis after seeing one of her photos in a magazine. SD, quietly joining in the conversation, states that women change their names all the time when they get married and lose their own history. Everyone is silently shocked at SD's controversial comment. Rebetson continues questioning Ronit's life in New York and asks why she is still not married, as it's the way it should be for a woman. Ronit disagrees, calling marriage an institutional obligation, and if she had stayed in the community and been married off, she would have killed herself. Everyone is shocked by her outburst, and Ronit, blaming her jet lag, excuses herself to go home. David, upon SD's request, leaves to walk her home. Ronit breaks down to David, hoping her father knew she truly loved him. David, struggling against the rules of his religion, tries to comfort his childhood friend without touching her on it, visits her uncle Hartog at his wigmaker's shop to continue the discussion of selling her father's house, but is informed by Hartog that the RAF left the house and all contents to the synagogue. She leaves and soon runs into SD outside a supermarket. They visit the Raf's house together, a rundown mess full of medical equipment. It is not so much the house that Ronit wanted, but for her father to acknowledge her in his will. SD admits that she does not want Ronit to leave again. Past feelings are reignited, and they kiss at first timidly as Ronit pulls back, and then passionately. Ronit retreats, once more confused about her feelings. They leave the house, and SD confesses that she had called the Brooklyn synagogue to let Ronit know of her father's death. She tells Ronit that she married David, a man she doesn't love romantically, but respects, as she was mentally unwell following Ronit's sudden departure, and married their best friend upon the Rav's suggestion. As they relax into each other's company and kiss again, they are interrupted by Hinda and husband Lev, and are unsure how much they saw as D rushes home tense. She almost embraces David, but their marriage still lacks the passion she has with her on it at school. SD is summoned to see the headmistress, Mrs. Shapiro. If you have come this far in the video, please subscribe to this channel to never miss amazing content like this, where Hinda and Lev are waiting to confront her allegations about Estee and Ronit also plague David. When he is asked by the synagogue to take on the Rav's work, Ronit waits for SDD at the school gates, where SD tells her about the formal complaint Hinda and Lev have submitted against her. Upon Ronit's suggestion, they escape the close-knit community and head into central London for the day. Ronit and SD continue to be conflicted in their attraction to one other. SD feels guilty and is trying to lead a good life in line with her faith, but cannot help but desire her former lover. They go to a hotel where they make love completely at ease and euphoric in each other's company. They talk about how Ronit's father first learned of their relationship all those years ago. SD returns home late at night, where Doved is waiting in their bedroom. He tries to get close to her, but his yearning to be intimate with his wife is rebuked once again by a confused SD. Nauseous the next day, SD begins to wonder or if she is pregnant. David confronts SD about Mrs. Shapiro's accusations, and she admits what happened between them. Dove's anger almost turns violent as he releases his frustration at his wife's inability to embrace their life together. Ronit, having overheard the argument, tries to persuade SD to leave her husband, but SD struggles to come to a decision. They both try to convince each other and themselves they are happy in their lives. Unable to cope with the current events, Dove seeks refuge In a quiet synagogue library, the atmosphere is tense when he returns home for dinner with Ronit and SD, when Ronit announces that she has booked a flight back to New York. That night, David seems relieved and quietly asks his wife what she plans on doing now. Ronit and SD share a difficult goodbye, both unable to share their true feelings. SD accuses Ronit of taking the easy option by leaving Ronit, storms out the house, and SD slams the door behind her, both heartbroken at the recent events in the mid. Dull of the night, SD leaves the house, whilst David is asleep and returns to the hotel room with a pregnancy test. Waking up at the airport the next morning, Ronit receives a panicked phone call from David, saying SD is missing after trying to calm him down. She continues to check into her flight, but later decides to leave and help Duft in the search for her returning home. After failing in their search for SD, Ronit is still angry that David didn't tell her of her father's illness SD returns from. Hiding and having heard everything announces her pregnancy, Doved is joyous, believing a child will solve all their marital problems, but SD instead asks for freedom for her and her child. She was born into the community and wants to give her child the freedom of choice she never had. Doved is speechless, and SD feels guilty for crushing her husband's dreams of becoming a father. Ronit and SD attend the hasped at the synagogue. Intimidated by the judgmental looks they receive, SD tries to make peace with David, but he ignores her, moved by the temple's sacred atmosphere. Ronit asks SD to be with her in New York. They clutch hands as David takes to the podium, where he struggles to deliver the official speech on the Rav's passing. Seeing Ronit in the crowd, he instead contemplates the notion of freedom and choice, a topic that the RAF spoke about in his final sermon, and grants SD the autonomy she has requested. Dove declines the synagogue position and abruptly leaves the Hesped outside Overcame. Home with emotion, SD and David hug. Ronit watches on in the distance until David extends an arm, and the three friends have a long, heartfelt hug together. The next morning, Ron prepares to leave for the airport. They say goodbye. It seems Astia has decided against joining Ronit in New York as Ronet's taxi pulls away down the street. SD runs after her, and the pair share a long goodbye kiss. Music. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know in the comments section below which movie you want us to recap next. As always, until the next time, music.